What's up, YouTubers and plant lovers? It's Justin, and today I wanted to show you how I care for my Crassula Crosby's compact Jade. Try saying that 7 times fast. Alright, now really all I want to do with this video is kind of get this plant ready for the summertime. Yeah, that's right, just like you would get ready for the summertime, your plants need to be gotten ready for the summertime too. Especially if you plan on sitting them outdoors in the harsh sunlight. You really can't just do that if you get a plant from, say, a big box store that's been inside for God knows how long. Or if you're like me and you've had to plant indoors all winter time and now it's hot in summer and you want to set it outside. Typically, your plants have to develop a nice cuticle, which is like a protective layer over the entire plant to make sure it doesn't get sunburned and end up causing a bunch of bleaching. And if it gets too severe, it can actually kill your plant. That's why you always want to introduce your plants slowly into the sunlight and let them develop that little cuticle to actually protect each leaf and stem and trunk and every other part of the plant. Now, as you can tell, where I had mine, he's got some pretty severe etiolation, and you can kind of tell there's some spaces in between the nodes that go about an inch, inch and a half. Some looked almost be about 2 inches. So I'll just do some heavy pruning and make sure I can kind of fix any of that spot that looks like it's etiolated really bad. Now, whenever you prune back your jades, you usually want to do that in the early spring or early summer. And if you do it too late in the summertime or in the fall, then any kind of growth that you may receive will get really leggy and be really weak. So there is a certain time frame that you want to make sure you do this by, but that's why I wanted to go ahead and do this one, because I had him in my plant room and I had him underneath an LED grow light next to a east window. So it got ample morning light, but it really wasn't enough for the jade plant. So I wanted to go ahead and get him ready and set him outdoors. Now, with all that being said, I'm going to turn him around a little bit and just decide where I should kind of get going. And I don't know if you remember, but I talked about this last year with a couple of my other plants, and one of my cats got a hold of this branch right here, and it's starting to heal up rather nicely. But you got to kind of pay attention, especially if you're like me and you have a neighborhood full of little outdoor cats that like to sharpen their claws. So just keep that in mind too. Alright, now like I said, whenever you go to prune any part that's been etiolated, you really want to get right there on the node right after the leaf stem. Nothing else is going to grow back on that extended stem, so make sure you're cutting it right above the node part or above the leaf. Now, incidentally, anytime that you're cutting on any of your plants, you always want to make sure that you sanitize your pruning shears. I always like to use 99% alcohol of the isopropyl alcohol, but anything above 90 will work rather nicely for your pruning shears. But get as close to each node as possible. And then you'll have some leaves that look kind of old and have some problems with color and just look rather unsightly. You can remove those as well, as well as any other branches too. So this will be a little bit of a heavy prune to get him ready for the summertime. And then not only am I pruning back any etiolation, but you also want to prune back any kind of branches that are kind of coming into contact with any other branch. Any branches that kind of intersect and start rubbing will create any kind of opening areas for pest or disease or anything else to kind of run in and potentially infect your plant. Now don't forget, jade plants are considered toxic. So if you have any children or pets, make sure that you're throwing all these leaves and stems away. And then make sure you're inspecting. You want to make sure you don't have any kind of disease or any kind of pest that may be running rampant. Look over your limbs and leaves, top to bottom. Make sure you don't see any scale or anything that may indicate any kind of rot. As you know, you got to be very careful with water on these plants because one day they might be looking fine, the next it could have a big problem with root rot. Now, any of these branches that fall off will develop little roots, adventitious roots, and then they will start to grow more of the plant in the pot. Now I've already got an established kind of branching system in the pot, so I'm pretty satisfied with the way it looks down in there. So I don't really need any more branches coming out the middle. So I will go ahead and remove any of these kind of falling stems so that he doesn't get too crowded down in the pot. But if you have one that's kind of leggy or not as well established as mine, any of them that do fall in can add more depth and more room and more branching to your pot. Alright, as you can tell, this species, well, this plant rather, has great ramification or branching habits. I know it looks like I'm pruning off quite a bit, but with summer just now here, he'll have plenty of time and room to grow out and branch up pretty well. Fill all this back in with some stronger, heavier growth. Now that we've thinned him out pretty decently, I'll make sure he's got enough room to kind of grow out. And I'm going to even hit some of these other branches that don't really need to be cut, just to give him more room to grow and develop better ramification. You don't want him weighed down with too much leggy growth. Sag really bad, and he won't be able to support himself. Alright, I don't see too much more that I really want to do. I think I've gotten rid of some of that leggy growth, give more room to fresh sunlight to be able to penetrate the remaining leaves. So next I just want to make sure I don't see any unsightly leaves that look like they might have bite marks on them or any kind of other unsightliness. Now that I've gotten rid of all that excess growth, the only other thing I really want to do is take him outside, or I can put him in the bathtub. I have a detachable shower head, but if you don't have one of those, you can throw him outside and use the garden hose, just kind of spray him off. You should always give your house plants especially, and even your outdoor plants, a good shower at least every couple of months. Just like you need a good shower, preferably every day, your plants really need one too, especially around every couple of months. This makes sure that they get plenty of water and make sure that you're knocking off any kind of disease or infestation of any kind of plant, bugs or anything of that nature. So it's really beneficial to kind of throw your plants in the bathtub or spray them off with a hose to make sure that you knock off any kind of pest. And that's really all I have left to do with him. Give him a good soak to make sure he is not thirsty anymore, and to make sure that no pests during the wintertime kind of came in here and set up shop. I thought that he kind of had a problem with some ants earlier in the year, but now I don't see nothing at all. So I think he looks pretty good. Now we'll go ahead and post an update video in a couple of months just to kind of show all that kind of new growth to make sure it looks rather good. But I know it looks kind of sparse right now, but that'll give him plenty of room to kind of grow out and make sure he kind of fills in rather nicely. Alright guys, well, as always I want to give a special shout out to my patrons, like David and Heather. Thank you all. And if you were interested in supporting my channel through Patreon, please check the link in the description box below. As always, any money donated will go to keeping the lights on, fresh water for these plants, and food, new pots or new homes, and not to mention new plants for new videos. As always, if you can't donate any kind of money, please consider hitting the like button or sharing any of my videos. And while you're at it, hit the subscribe button. That always helps me tremendously. And then while you're at it, don't forget to leave me a comment and let me know if you've ever had any kind of success or failures with any of your jade plants. Well guys, this has been Justin reminding you that if you can, go out and plant a tree. Let's reforest the world. Well, that's it for this time guys. And as always, thank you for watching. And don't forget, always plant prudently. Thank you YouTube.